raffle tonight, but I just want to encourage everybody to continue to buy raffle tickets. The raffle is going to end at 8:15. One raffle ticket for $5. 5 raffle tickets for $20. 10 raffle tickets for $30. Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. All right. Welcome, welcome. My name is Narit Siegel-Smith. I am the executive director of the Music Forward Foundation. This is my 7th week on the job, and I'm so excited to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our live stream audience also joining us tonight. How many people do we have on live stream? No, 5. Thank you. Thank you, the 5 of you. Thank you. I want to thank all of the Music Forward staff that was worked on this. Shout out to Shay Champ and Sharon Jennings. Thank you to the Live Nation teams, facilities and support teams that helped facilitate this all. Thank you to our sponsors, Hint Water, Ginger 9, Milk and Eggs, and Luna, and our raffle supporters, Trunk, Ticketmaster, and House of Blues. And thank you to our partner tonight, Women International Music Network, an organization that advocates for women in music and audio. A little bit about Music Forward. We're a national nonprofit organization that invites and empowers young people to enter the music industry and enrich it with a diversity of voices, both on and off the stage. For 25 years, Music Forward has provided transformational experiences for youth to gain access into the music industry. And we believe that these skills and this experience that they gain is not just for the music industry, but life skills as well. How to be confident, how to be poised, and how to reach their full potential. We're not only a bridge for the youth into the music industry, but we hope that we're also a bridge for the music industry into a more vibrant and diverse workforce. Connecting passions to professions, connecting community to industry in order to shape tomorrow's innovators and leaders. And we can't do that without you. We can't do that without a group of partners committed to elevating our collective culture and our humanity. So please join our community. We're always expanding our network of schools, nonprofits, civic and business engagements, industry leaders to help us increase and deepen our impact. Because right now, the national spotlight is on gender parity in the entertainment industry. And while we may see greater diversity on stage, a detailed study just released from the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative shows that music industry overall gets low marks on gender parity and workforce diversity. According to the study conducted by Dr. Stacy Smith at USC, there is 1 female for every 49 male producers. Music lives in people's hearts and memories, defining our most significant occasions. And the music industry creates culture-shaping moments and products. And that's why making sure all viewpoints are included is so important. And that is why we are here tonight. Our moderator for this panel tonight is Laura B. Whitmore. She is the founder of Women International Music Network, and she's the co-producer of the prestigious She Rocks Awards. A journalist and owner of Mad Sun Marketing, Laura is a partner in and a producer of the live stream series Backstory, and regularly streams interviews from New York with iconic musicians. She's a mom and is a singer-songwriter herself, and has a new album out for girls called Girl, an album. It's coming out soon. Please join me in welcoming Laura B. Whitmore.
Thank you so much, Narit. Hi, everybody. Well, I don't really need to say anything about the Women's International Music Network. That was a great introduction. I'm going to bring the panel out. And now we're going to talk about an interesting topic, something that is pretty meaningful to pretty much everybody on the planet, especially artists. Thinking about your identity and your authenticity and how you can define yourself so that people understand you and what your mission is. And we've had a great conversation kind of backstage there about it already. So I'm super psyched to bring everybody out. So come on, why don't you guys come on up? Greetings, and thank you everybody for coming out. And I hope you're going to join us afterwards up on the roof for some fun chatting and drinking and eating. So anyway, I'd like to just start off by asking our panel to introduce themselves and think about sharing a bit about your background, and maybe also thinking about how you focus on diversity and on authenticity in what you do. So let's start with you, Audrey, and then we can kind of move down the
Hi,
line.
everyone. You made it over here with all the movie commotion going on. It's Solo. That's the movie that's out there right now. Okay. Anyway, I'm Audrey Hare. I'm an experimental pop harpist, vocalist, composer. Process and the creative voice is sort of like at the core of a lot of things that I do. So in my own music, collaboration is very important. I work with other ensembles. I work with technologists. And I also am a DIY promoter, and I've presented a lot of artists and encouraged them to do crazy new things that they might not be comfortable doing in other types of performance situations that are less intimate. And I also work in music education, so helping people sort of discover their creative voice as well as their technical ability is something that I kind of think a lot about as well.
Hi, you were going to pass me the microphone. Hi, I'm BT Wolf, and I'm a singer-songwriter and innovator. And I started writing songs when I was about 8. Absolutely fell in love with songwriting and music from that point. And at the same time discovered my parents' record collection and just saw these records as musical books that you could kind of enter into the world of. And really from that point, I was imagining, you know, what my album would look like and feel like as much as what it would sound like. So from that perspective, I, as I got older, you know, created these tangible formats for music in the digital age, which ranged from a musical jacket through to a vinyl for the phone, through to an anti-stream from the quietest room in the world. And that then led me to, you know, be invited into Apple's Cupertino town hall and talk about my innovations to the VPs, through to Spotify, through to Beats, through to Amazon, and really, you know, be able to sort of change the way people are thinking about music in this digital time.
I'm Caroline Trujillo. I work at Maverick Management in the digital and creative department, working with several artists on our roster and basically how they tell their story through marketing endeavors, but mostly making sure that they stick true to their own vision. And if they don't have a vision, then helping them create one, essentially. Before that, I worked with brands at a digital marketing agency from automotive and consumer packaged goods. And so going into music was quite the transition, but I really love it. I'm really passionate about music, and I love the storytelling aspect of it as well, and just the emotional attachment people have with sounds and lyrics and beats and just everything about it, and even the artists themselves. So yeah, that's about it.
Hello, you guys. My name is Ty Jones, but I go by the name of Two Ty. I'm a female MC, rapper, aspiring actress, model, dancer, all that and above. I'm here because I am an Bringing Down the House 2016 alumni. I also participate in the U Forward class of 2016 as well. Used to go to Hollywood High School for 4 years, graduated, woohoo. And now by day I work at Office Depot. I do music and inspire a lot of young kids. I perform at a lot of different elementary schools, do a lot of YouTube videos, empowering a lot of the young kids in my community. I live in Inglewood, California, so that's pretty much my home base. And yeah, that's pretty much it about me.
Okay, thank you guys so much for being here and sharing your thoughts on this topic. So I want to just give you a little background about how this came into my brain of something to talk about. So my organization, the Women's International Music Network, we host a lot of events. And actually, last night we hosted a showcase at the ASCAP Expo. I think some of you might have been there, and it was a fantastic showcase. And we had to select 4 performers to share their music with the crowd, and we got over 400 submissions for performers to be there. So I literally listened to every single one of them myself because I'm like crazy that way. And as I was doing that, I was thinking, wow, there's 400 submissions of musicians, and so many of them I don't really understand, like who they are and what their music is about and why I would want to select them to be on this showcase. And I got a little bit sad because I thought about, some of them are probably really great, but I don't know it because I don't understand their message. So I thought it might be a really good thing for us to kind of hone in on the idea of identity and the idea of like even thinking about, yourself from inside, like what do you want to project about yourself as an artist? And so I wanted to talk to our panel a little bit about that idea of definition and how have you defined yourself as an artist, or in your case, Caroline, as some of the artists that you've worked with, what has worked for you in sort of like that definition and how you project that to the outside world. And let's start with you, Ty.
Of course.
The mic.
I would say just knowing where you come from, knowing your target, knowing what you want to tell a story about or what you want to talk about in your music, knowing the audience and who you're reaching towards. For me, I'm more of to my youth, to my little kids. Those are the ones that, have to grow up into our politicians, our, doctors, our lawyers, our police officers. So I feel like if you start young with them, it'll be able to grow up into a world that we can definitely be proud of to leave behind. And that goes into me defining who I am as an artist, what I want to talk about, what I want to portray to anyone watching. Like you guys are seeing me now. I don't want to portray something that is not really me. My mother has always taught me, know where you come from, respect where you're going, where you've come from, respect the people that have been in your shoes. And that's pretty much why I do what I do and how I do it. So, pretty much.
Are you going down the line?
We can, unless somebody wants to jump in.
Well, I was just, I think this is on.
Yes.
Okay. I was getting a bit insecure about that. Yeah, I think it's.
Hold it up a little higher.
I think that it is. I think it's really pretty simple. I think, when you find what it is that you love and, what it is that you would be doing, like, regardless of necessarily whether you'd be able to make money at it or not, and you're able to, really tune into that and find something that you would just be spending your weekends doing, and like every level of, whether it's admin or sort of overseeing something, it might not always be the rock and roll stuff, but like ultimately I think, there was this one quote my dad always said to me growing up, and it never made sense as when I was a kid, and I kind of thought that he was just talking rubbish, and then suddenly it clicked, and he sort of explained it to me. But it's this idea of so the quote is, "The eye of the farmer fattens the pig," and basically, like, if you're the farmer and it's your pig, you're gonna see things in that pig that no one else is gonna see, and just the act of overseeing will ensure its growth better than delegation, or better than having experts, like. And I think that can't be underestimated. The number of times, like, I did this big project with Bell Labs. I just curated the LA Times' first multimedia festival. And I essentially was doing all these, like, little things that wouldn't usually fall in a musician or singer-songwriter sort of role. But it was because I had a vested interest in the outcome, and I had a vision of how I felt it should be done. And I think when you have a vision, you can't underestimate the power of watching your pig.
So that's what I've been doing.
I also think it's about giving somebody, people, an easy way to connect with you and a clear message about I mean, for me, it might be a little bit easier because I play the harp, and so people can latch onto that. But I'm an experimental pop artist, and people can latch onto that too. But then it's all about making those things present in all that you do. I mean, the sounds that I use are sort of experimental and come out through a process of experimentation with people. The forms of my songs are sort of all over the place and out there, and so I take people on that experimental pop ride on every level in how I create my art and how I communicate and share with them. And so it's sort of coming from the inside out, which was something we were talking about backstage a little bit before the panel.
Yeah, everyone pretty much touched on it, but I don't know if you've heard of the book. It starts with why, but essentially the core of it is always get down to the why. Why are you doing this? Why are you making music? What's the story that you want to tell? And the book goes into why Apple is so successful as a company is because they went into the why before they even talked about products. And as an artist and coming from a marketing perspective, it makes my job so easy when the artist knows their why, because then us as a marketer, we get to be your best friend on the team because we know what to say no to, we know what to say yes to, because we know that if it fits with your why, then we're going to do it. We're going to put it forth. If it doesn't fit with your why, we're never going to show you this opportunity because we're on the same team. And so getting down to the why, to your values, your vision, will always result in an authentic outcome.
You know, I thought as I was working on this panel, I thought a little bit about like what do you do if you you aren't sure like what your why is or how to define yourself or what the things are that you should emphasize about yourself that might make you unique. And I was telling the panel earlier, I literally made like a list, and I'm going to share this online, everybody. I put it in a spreadsheet, and it was literally like a list of 20 things that you could think about of yourself. Like, and some of them might be, you know, your gender, your religion, where you came from, what your family culture is like all of those things that might go into your identity as an artist. And then like you can kind of rate them, like how important is that to me? Is that something that I want to emphasize? Like, you know, I'm like, okay, what about myself? I literally did the worksheet myself, and I realized that I'm like an over 50 mom who wants to write songs and empower girls. I'm like, okay, like I can work with that, you know, that's okay. But I wanted to chat a little bit with you guys about, you know, what are some of the attributes that musicians should think about emphasizing? And maybe, Caroline, this might be something that you could start with. And because part of it is about like, yes, they need to be marketed. They need to be part of your job now, especially as an artist, is to get your message, your music out to the world. And, you know, are there some attributes that musicians should focus on or are helpful to focus on? And what are those and how should we think about them? So, do you have any thoughts on that? Not to put you on the spot. Or anybody else can jump in if you want.
I think that, and I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, the number of times I feel like I'm saying the same thing with like, figure out, you know, why it is that you're doing something, because when you know why, it informs every decision. It literally makes everything else 1,000% easier, and it also creates something that feels authentic, feels integrated, and has this sense of sort of that inner circle being at the core, and like rather than this empty shell that is the what and the how, but you never actually know why you're doing it, and people can feel that. You know, people are much more tuned into this than we realize. I think that a big thing that's sort of missing, particularly now, is just this idea that we have so much more to offer when we cultivate our own unique identity. You know, there's so much of like wanting to sound like someone else or wanting to look like someone else or figuring out that, you know, that was a fast track route, so we should try that. and actually, what it is that is meaningful will be, your unique vision, or your unique vision that is like so you that no one else could do it, and that's where the value is. That's why, like Bowie is Bowie and Donny Hathaway is Donny Hathaway, or whoever it is, they were kind of really getting into their thing. And even if it was at a time when no one got it, I think there's also this illusion right now that we all need to be kind of known in our time, rather than like, well, what are we contributing to the world? What are we leaving behind? What will be the great records that in 30 years people are going to come back to, and it's like, wow, this was made then, and I feel like we're going back so much to great albums, but I think albums will return. I don't think they're gone forever. And I don't know, I just think that this long-term vision is something that has to override these short-term gains. And because these spikes, they go up like that and they go down as fast, particularly when you're looking at how much spiking is being done on streaming platforms. The whole thing with, Beyonce and Kanye that came out today. It's like insane, that most of that was fake. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have a lot to say on that, but I think just your own unique identity is so valuable. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Laura and I were talking about this one day. I think that there's your artist persona, right? But then there's just who you are, what you do for work, what you like doing. I think you mentioned yoga as a way to connect, because there are a million ways to connect with people as an artist, and how much of your whole persona your artistry is a part of. You can play a yoga show, or you can decide that you're an amazing chef who's super interested in cooking and find a way to find fans to connect with that, either through social media or a performance opportunity or things that way. And if you start bringing those types of aspects into your artistry, it creates a larger sphere of influence for your artistry, but also even a more complete picture of who you are as an artistic being in the world, and how people can reach you and connect with you, I think. And I thought that was like a really cool thing we were talking about the other day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have I know a lot of, especially female artists out there in the world. And, one interesting example that came up was we actually had a magazine for like Mustangs reach out to us and say, hey, we want to feature some like female musicians that own Mustangs. Like cars, not the horse. And so we reached out to our network, and we were able to like get features for some of these female musicians who were Mustang owners and like really into owning a Mustang. And that was like a cool opportunity for them for exposure. And also I have a friend who has played guitar for Beyonce for a long time, but she's like super into yoga. That was my yoga example. And she ended up being on the cover of like a yoga magazine because that was something she was really passionate about. And it was a great exposure opportunity for her personally. And, so part of, what I was thinking about as well was like, what are all those things that you're passionate about and who you are? And you can use those to help get your messaging out to, like you said, a larger sphere of potential fans and interested people. Any other thoughts?
I would definitely say, I remember it was You Forward, 2016. I did a job shadowing here, and I don't really remember the person, but I remember they said something that has been with me ever since. Know your hobbies and then know your passions and separate them. Some stuff may be a hobby. For me, it's doing nails. I love doing my own nails. It's something I've always been doing since my mom has been doing hers. But it's not something I would take as into a career or take as something that, I want to make money off of. It's just a hobby, something I like to do. A passion is something I love to do. I see myself doing for the rest of my life. It's something I want to eventually make money off of, wake up every day and do that exact thing. And for me, that's music. And for other people, they have to, find the hobbies and the passions. And once you separate those and figure it out and then set goals for yourself to accomplish those passions and accomplish those hobbies in whatever way you do, then you will start to kind of identify yourself as a person who you want to soon be.
That's it. That's an excellent point.
A word while these ladies were talking that came to my mind was discernment, and just taking a step back and being able to ask yourself, okay, I don't have a vision yet, but what am I willing to share with the rest of the world, and what am I willing not to share, and what do I want to keep personal to me, and what do I want others to share with me? I work with an artist who his passion is championing other creatives, and that is the whole root of his campaign, his music, everything that he does. Never will you hear him talk about his personal life, because that is something that he wants to keep to himself. On the other hand, I work with another artist who loves to talk about their personal life, because it is so important to them, and the experiences and what they draw on in their music, their songwriting. And so, but that took some time of, okay, what do I want to share? So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, another element of this conversation is diversity, and you know, as the Women's International Music Network, our goal is to get more women's voices involved in the music and audio industries, from all aspects of the industry. And so we talk about diversity a lot as it relates to gender, but I feel like you know, diversity can take a lot of forms, and diversity of identity as an artist can be one of them. And so, like, for example, when I'm building a program like the showcase last night, I am trying to find a group of women who have a diverse perspective on how they present their music, and I might look at other things like racial diversity or genre diversity, so that my program feels really well-rounded and representative. But I wanted to talk about the idea of diversity, and are there, can you think of some like examples of encouraging diversity and building upon unique identity? Like, have you any thoughts about, also, like, we talked a little bit about, you know, sometimes diversity for diversity's sake is sort of like backwards as well. And I know that's like a little bit like fuzzy, but do you have thoughts about that at all? About diversity and identity? Beatty's like, no.
Well, I think, first of all, just being supportive to each other and to all of your fellow artists is important. Go out for different types of shows, share bills with different types of artists who might be an interesting fit, might educate your audience, like to hear this really cool, like, spoken word artist and then the harp, or a metal band and then the harp, or something, you know what I mean? I'm talking about genre, I'm talking about, you know, all of the different aspects of diversity. Find collaborators who are different than you in many different ways. Maybe they're brilliant melody writers, maybe they are amazing beat makers, maybe they play some crazy instrument from some part of the world that, you know, might make your music sound more enriched. And then I think just, yeah, I mean, I'll probably, a few ideas will bubble up, but I'll pass the mic for now.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, the opposite of diversity is homogenized, you know, and I think that right now, like, if we're taking it outside the gender and race and everything like that, there is this, particularly in the music world, there's this desire for, you know, these very replaceable tracks, and you look at like BPMs, and BPMs are speeding up, and the instrumental before you get to the verse that, you know, in the 60s was like a minute typically, and then in the 90s was like 20 seconds. You know, it's now within seconds you're at the vocal, and you're not even at the verse, you're at the chorus. So it gets to this point where essentially music is kind of becoming jingles in a fashion, and you know, it is to fit these, you know, you even see it on like the sort of Spotify side of like how Mastering and compression is even playing a part. So actually they don't want these dynamic ranges that you used to get in records. They want everything kind of, compressed at a certain level. It's not to say anything bad about Spotify, but it's this whole thing of like, music is, the ideal is to have this 24-hour stream in the background that actually isn't getting disrupted, where people aren't being pulled out by a song or by a record. And so I think on the music level, actually we have to fight way more again, for that cultivation of our own unique voice, our own unique identity, what it is that like we're passionate about, what it is that, we like, because if we like it, there must be something good about it because we like it. And then I think maybe more on the gender side, and everything else, like the ideal is just to have the best people telling these stories rather than it being like, the leading figures, the leading women figures in creativity. It should just be that it's, getting to that 50-50 split more without us having to kind of force that, I think.
I can definitely talk on this only because being a female rapper in the hip hop industry, I feel like there's a lot of diversity, but I feel like female artists are conditioned to look a certain way, rap or sing a certain way, dress a certain way, and it's not really any self-identity in the music business for females. Well, I would say more for hip hop artists. You see all the female rappers dressed the same. They're usually half naked in every video, or they're talking about how good this is, and you know what I mean. We're going to keep it PG. And it gets to a point where it's like we need different. We need empowerment. We need female rappers and singers and pop artists, country artists to come together and be able to be on a song and it be very empowering to young girls, up and coming, young women. I feel like this is more, it touches my home base only because I want to be the opposite of that. I want to be the female rapper that is out there, full clothes, but as big as Beyonce, I want to see a female artist make it like that. Make it to where they don't have to be half dressed. The men that are controlling these businesses or the women that are controlling these businesses are making it to where sex only sells. But why does it have to only sell? Because we're forcing it to sell. And I really don't like it, but I feel like that's where it's going. I feel like it's starting to slowly change because we do have more female artists collabing on a lot of different projects and shows and things like that. So hopefully it does change, but that's my whole spill.
Yeah, I like that. And I also, it's always interesting to me just thinking about diversity of like how, like even instrumentation, like once in a while I'll see a band with like, there's a trombone in that metal band. Like, I love that. I mean, that's so cool. It doesn't have to be that everything is like so set in stone that it's, that, you can't have that in metal or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like a female rapper can't dress in a baggy hoodie with some ripped up jeans and some Jordans and she can be a regular girl. She's not, lesbian or anything like that. It's always some type of stereotype put onto a woman if she looks different than the average artist in the business or the average, for a businesswoman. Oh, she comes very professional. She has a, stern look on her face. Oh, she must be mean. Oh, she must be this. Why? She can't just be a boss. You know what I mean? That's my way of saying it.
You gotta be a boss.
My language.
Well, I think, from my perspective, like if everybody in the world sort of looks at their own identity and what we've been talking about here, then everybody's diverse, right? So, the hope is that, people being that true to yourself sort of person and artist will help that everybody not be the same, all the music not be the same, all the instrumentation not be the same. I'm going to just maybe ask one more question, and then we're going to open it up for some questions from the audience here at Live Nation. I just want to talk about this thought because we talked a bit about this beforehand. Is it more important, or is it also important to focus not just on who you are, but on who you want to be. And how do you pull that into who your identity is as an artist?
Well, I mean, I think any of us learning to do something, right? You know, there's going to be a little while where you're probably not that great at it, and you're going to just pull through, learn how to play whatever it is, or code, or do anything, you know, to a level where you can actually offer it to people in a meaningful way, whether that's a performance or a service or anything like that. But there is that study. You have to have that technical foundation in order to just like be able to get up there and rap or release a record in an anechoic chamber or you know, you have to get to that level. But then you also have to, we all see ourselves in a certain way, and hopefully it's always aspirational because we want to be better the next day than we are today. And when you're creating something, you know, it takes me like a long time to write a piece. Like it'll take me days, weeks sometimes. Sometimes it's like little parts that come together over the course of a year. But there's always a hope for those little fragments to come together and be something amazing. And I think that's just how I think about myself as a human, myself as an artist, and, you know, everyone here and everyone around me too. So in terms of how that plays into artistic identity, I think of collaborators I want to work with. I think like I want in 10 years to like work with, you know, amazing symphonies and write pieces for them and perform with them. Or so I work towards that, and that's a vision that I have in my mind while I'm collaborating with local groups and things like that. But there is that, I guess, you know, there is the fact that I am doing the thing that I want to be doing. I just hope to continue growing. So I guess it's about growth, really. It's like an aspirational growth thing, if that makes any sense. Who else?
Does anyone else want to contribute to that? I mean, from my perspective, I always think about the limits that we put on ourselves as well. And like, you know, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm just a local singer-songwriter, and once in a while I collaborate with somebody. But you know, the last couple of years, what I've been doing myself as an artist has expanded so much that it's kind of mind-blowing to me that I limited myself too much, that I didn't think like I could be that person to write that music and perform at that show and do that album. And, you know, sometimes when we think about our own identity, we put limits on our identity as well. And sometimes just blowing those limits away can really help you to get to where you want to go. So if we have some questions from the audience, I'd ask that you come forward so that we can get you on the mic, because we want the people that are watching at home to be able to hear your questions as well. So does anybody out there have a question? Yeah, come on up.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. So my question is around identity. And my name is Shalini, by the way. I'm an artist from LA, from the desert, actually, Palm Springs. How much do you let other people help you to identify yourself as an artist? So, you know, there's yourself, there's your authenticity, and then there's people who know you very well, who want to give you their input. How do you sort of bring that into your identity as an artist?
I would definitely say, from experience, being 18 years old is, at this time, you know, it's a lot of confusion with roles and who I want to be and who I want to become. And I would say the person that has like had the hugest impact on who I know I want to be and my identity would be my mom. That's the only person that really knows me, has seen me grow up. She's the one who has been putting me in schools for performing arts. And it's not that I only listen to her, but I mainly take what she's saying because I know it's coming genuinely from the heart, and she's being real. She's being very, you know, strict, straightforward. Here it is, you know, okay, you looking like everybody else. Do you want to be like, you know, your mom is going to tell you what is it, or your father will tell you what it is. So that's, for me, that's who I would listen to. Or if you have any family members that you're really close to, I would say that.
I think maybe it's about having a vision, at least a vague vision for what it is you're trying to do. And then I'm assuming most of you guys have a best friend, right? Like, if they'll tell you something, you know how to filter that appropriately because you know who it's coming from, why they're telling you that, and you can use it to build self-awareness, but you don't have to do it, right? Because you know them. And so it's like, I think it's important to have like a board, right, of trusted people whose voices you always listen to and will let in, but you'll also know how to filter because you have that at least sense of what you're trying to do and you know how that feedback can fit into what your goal is. Because they'll probably say things that you don't agree with sometimes and you know not to take that advice because it's not correct for you and it's not going to work. And then in terms of like fans or any feedback from outside, it's the same thing. It's about staying true to that vision and knowing where that feedback is hitting, and deciding if there are things that you want to change in order to be connecting with people more accurately in the way that you're trying to, based on the vision that you have for yourself, or not. That would be my thoughts on it.
Anybody else want to add to that?
I was just going to say, from a management perspective, you may or may not have a manager yet, and usually that comes with a team of people who are going to be providing input. But you know a good manager whenever they know your vision very, very well, but they're also able to disagree in a way that is strategic. There are some managers who just go with the flow a lot of the time, and sometimes that's not the best. It's not helpful. But it starts with building that trust. So finding those people, like they mentioned, that you trust, and you trust that they will tell you no whenever a no needs to be said, or trusting that they will ultimately champion you through the end.
And also, I just want to add that, you know, there are communities that can help you too, like with the Women's International Music Network. We have like Facebook groups and other groups where sometimes people will post like, hey, I got this offer and maybe it doesn't feel right to me, but I'm not sure. Like, have you guys had any experience with that? And if it's a group of people that, you know, are helpful, like there are communities like that where you can look for advice as well, especially if it's business related and it might be something that you don't have experience with yet. Those are always good too. Okay. Is there another question? Sure, come on up. Oh, can you come over here so you'll be on camera? Come on.
Hopefully I
That's
look
good.
okay. Just kidding. Thank you for being here. This is really great. I'm glad I could make it out. Yes. So I'll ask you this too to think about. So Laura, you talked about diversity, and in your question, I could hear you kind of saying that sometimes being diverse for the purpose of diversity sometimes is counterintuitive. It's almost forced. And I wanted to ask you all, maybe in a different way, to get your perspective. A friend of mine and myself, we had this conversation recently that do you think we could, as artists, still be diverse while also focusing on what brings us together as a humanity, like the commonalities of our humanity? Because I think one thing that once you kind of do find your identity, you start seeing a lot of people start connecting with you once you know how to be relatable to them, and you were mentioning that. So do you think our focus should maybe adjust a little bit as a music community to more of what brings us together, what makes us kind of similar, as opposed to totally about what makes us different? I think there's a balance, of course. Diversity is a very important thing to be aware of, but how would you weave that together?
I would just say, first off, like, I think it's surprising when you reveal something personal about yourself or about your music or about your mission or whatever it is, how many people connect to that you don't realize have that, either that same issue or that same vision or whatever it is. And I think that we might think it's unique to us, but there there are so many people that it's just never spoken about. So from my perspective, like just sharing that your unique, passion and your why and all of that is a commonality. We just haven't voiced it that way. So I think you can have both. You can have, you can be a leader in that sort of sharing a vision and bring those other people. They become attracted to you because of that,
Yeah, and also it becomes
Mike.
it's like if you're comfortable being you, and you also become an example to other people. So then it's a case of, the way I think about it is almost like a disco ball, where you've got all these fragments of, mirror, and each one of us is one of those fragments, and we're all part of this ball, but we have our own sort of focus and our own direction. But I think, if you've found what it is that you're gets you excited and what you love doing, and you're sharing that with people, that's the best way of actually encouraging that in others. And so you almost end up connecting through that individualized focus, which becomes something that then more people get inspired to find out for themselves, I think.
I mean, in terms of just using music as a tool for connection, it's interesting to think that recorded music isn't that old, right? And that's really when music became more of a product than anything. I mean, people used to have pianos in their homes, right? And they would play songs together. Music is an important part of many cultures, and the most important part of many cultures for hundreds and thousands of years. So that is what music is, first and foremost. And then our job today is to figure out how to take this art we're making with it now that we can like create something, and then, like we've seen many artists leave us recently, like Prince. There's this huge body of work left behind. What is that thing that we're making? What is it that we're giving to the world with it? And how does it still have that core, which is connection, inside of it?
Thank you so much.
you.
Well, thank you, everybody. Just want to remind you that we're going to have a mixer upstairs on the roof right after this. We've got a great raffle with some gifts from our sponsors, and we have another prize that got added on from Ginger 9, who will be up on the roof providing some free sampling, and there's some great food up there from Milk and Eggs, and some other great prizes. We have a guitar we're giving away from Recording King. That's part of the raffle. So I hope you join us. Purchase raffle tickets. The raffle money goes towards the Music Forward Foundation and the Women's International Music Network. So I'm going to ask our panel to head upstairs to the roof, and then I'm going to invite you guys to join us up there. So why don't you just hang tight for just a second. And thank you, everybody, for coming out.